I'd like to call to order the May 11th meeting of the EOTC at 4:07.
On the call of the roll for the May 11, 2015 meeting, Member Pilpil.
Present.
Pilpil present. Member Wolf.
Present.
Wolf present. Chair Hyland.
Present.
Hyland present. We have a quorum. I do not have any agenda changes to discuss. Item number 2, file number 140.
Hold on. Mr. Chair, could we take items 2 and 3 together, perhaps?
I think that'd probably be a good idea.
Great. Thanks.
Item number 2, file number 14067, hearing on the status of the order of determination, complaint filed by Charles Grissom against Frank Lee, Department of Public Works, for violating Administrative Code Section 67.21C for failure to assist the requester in identifying the existence, form, and nature of a requested record. Item number 3, file number 14098, complaint filed by Charles Grissom against Public Works for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 67.21 and 67.25 for failure to respond to requests for public records in a timely and complete manner.
Mr. Clerk, can you bring us up to speed on these two files, please?
Yes, I believe at the last meeting of the task force, or of the EOTC, the task force requested that the Department of Public Works provide a copy of their procedures and policies for processing for public records requests. Item number 3, file number 14098, I believe is a related file. However, this has not been before the full task force yet, so we would need to determine how to handle that complaint.
Okay. Thank you. Members, any discussion?
Yeah. So I think well, it could go either way. I'm certainly interested in hearing from Public Works about their procedures. I reviewed the material that was provided. This was the stuff that we should have looked at 2 months or 4 months ago anyway, but it's before us, and that's helpful. We should also probably hear from Mr. Grisham about the current status of his complaints against Public Works, and then determine how to dispose of item 2 with regard to the department's policies and procedures, and item 3 with regard to Mr. Grisham's second complaint.
Okay. Mr. Grisham, would you like to come up and give us a summary of where things stand and how you feel about the compliance?
Yes, sir. How I feel about it is, again, I'd like for the task force to find, frankly, in willful failure to comply with my initial request, which was for not necessarily the policy and procedures. Actually, in layman's terms, I was asking for an index of records. It's clear from the emails that are in the record, I have nothing to add to the record. Everything has been submitted, and I agree the record is huge now. I think that the essential basic facts may be getting a little buried if you're able to, and I'm sorry I'm not more organized, but my initial emails asked for, in essence, and very clearly, an index of the records, and I also expressed that I'm interested in finding out about claims caused by construction going on in the public right-of-way because of my distress over the condition of the public right-of-way, sidewalks, bike lanes, and street use and DPW's responsibility there. Mr. Lee repeatedly claimed that there were no records at DPW, repeatedly referred me to the city attorney's office, claimed that DPW doesn't process claims, that they just put it over to the city attorney. I feel that he gave me false and misleading information. I think he did it knowingly, because as soon as I involved task force, I called Mr. Young, explained my situation. Mr. Young told me to ask for, quote unquote, an index of records, and within hours I had that. And starting on page 33, so it wasn't, my initial request wasn't for the policies and procedures, it was just for an index of records and for claims any records of claims that had been filed in DPW's area of jurisdiction, and there were repeated emails from Mr. Lee denying the existence of claims-related documents at DPW and referring me back to city attorney in this voluminous memorandum or record. Page 33, for example, I think this is the one that really caught your attention, Chairman Hyland, when I was able to put this up on the projector and show that actually page 34 of that policy and procedure, which frankly popped out within hours of my mentioning task force involvement, frankly, suggestion. Then on page 34, you see claims. There are 4 different entries: director's office claims, rules and again, pointing out that frankly is executive assistant to the director, making over $100,000 a year. He's not a low-level functionary. He is Director Nuru's right-hand man. I think it raises the seriousness of the allegation that this was willful failure. Not just, I've watched him in here. He acts like he doesn't know what's going on. He acts like he doesn't understand. I think it's a ruse. I think it's more deception. I think he's lied to this committee. I've been here when you've caught him in his lies. He said, we don't have that. We don't know of the existence of that, repeatedly denying the existence of that. But yet it's already in the record. They have a staff member who handles claims-related DPW matters. There's actually somebody on staff there. If you look in the org chart, there's somebody who, that's their job, is handling claims. So for the person closest to Director Nuru to repeatedly make the assertion that they don't know anything about claims at DPW, you have to see Dennis Herrera about that, who could just claim privilege, of course, on practically anything. I think it's willful failure, and I think it's of a very serious nature. And I hope you'll find that, because then I'll take that to the Ethics Commission and pursue official misconduct against Frank Lee, because I think it rises to that level. And I'm still very upset about it. I've moved on because of the chaos in the city. I've relocated out of the city. I'm basically done with San Francisco. This is the only body in San Francisco, government-wise, that I think that I have any evidence is effective or cares or listens. The other, DPW is, in my opinion, sold out to the developers. Planning, attorney, all of it. I'm discouraged with San Francisco. It's not the city I moved to in 1998, and I'm done. So I didn't dress up. I apologize for my appearance. I've left San Francisco, and this is my last attempt to see this egregious act of deception on the part of a director's right-hand man, not some low-level functionary, and it's in the record. Repeated denials of the existence of claims until task force was involved, repeated obfuscation and skirting around my clear request for the thing that is called the index of records. I asked for a description of the nature, form, details. It's in there. You probably remember. It was very clear. He may pretend like he doesn't know what anybody's saying and act dumb, which is my opinion. It's an act. But he knows exactly what's going on. It's willful failure. I hope you'll find that, because then I'll go for official misconduct, and I hope he's turned out of his job as a result of this activity.
Thank you very much. We'd like to give the Mr. Lee a chance to respond. And
Victor, did he have like 5 minutes or close to it?
a little bit more.
It was timed at 3 minutes, and it went beyond that.
Okay. So I think we should give Frank 3 and then some. Close to 3.
I think we've established some of the things that, we've established many things already in the past 2 or 3 meetings. I think we've already understood that the city attorney's office accepts claims against the city, regardless if it's against Public Works or any other department. The way the city attorney's office handles claims, and we established this, is that when they do investigations on them, and if they request the department's help, they will contact the department. There's no one single person. They have the authority to contact anybody within the department on the investigation. So we don't know whom the city attorney's office contacted for investigations. So that was the emphasis of why we said to go to the city attorneys and ask them for the records, because whatever we find, we turn over to the city attorney. Now, granted, there are some records in our department, and we said we keep records of inspections. Now, whether it's claim-related or not, we keep records of all inspections. So what we did was we gave all the inspection records from the past year to Mr. Grisham, regardless if it's claim-related or what, or complaint-related or what. All those inspections records were given to him so that he can sort through and determine himself which ones are claim-related. Because someone like me, I can't determine which inspection records are claim-related unless they're labeled claim, or if the claims office tell us that that's related to it. So in terms of the index of records, I think we've already established that
Perhaps
that
you could
index is incorrect.
You can refresh us on that.
Okay, and we established that that index is out of date and is incorrect, and our department is in the process of changing that. That's it.
When do you expect that to?
Pardon?
When do you expect that to be up to date?
Oh, I think the consultant said within a year, something like that. We hired a consultant to help us. It's part of the overall process of every department agents in San Francisco that have to update the index of records. It's done once every 10 years, and this happened to be the 10th year.
Not actually a 10-year cycle, but anyway, we talked about that. Member Wolf will remember we talked about that Wednesday night at the task force. We'll bring you up to speed.
Okay.
But we should let Frank finish.
Go ahead, carry on.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, thank you. Members, discussion?
We ask for speakers and support. I mean, we're also dealing with a complaint here. I'm thinking that we should dispose of item 3 one way or the other first, and then come back to the policies and procedures.
I was thinking of doing it in the other direction, but
Okay.
I mean, it's going to
It
come
can
to the
go
same
either way.
thing. Yeah. Is anybody else, would anyone like to, first of all, speak in support of the complainant, Mr. Grisham? Seeing none, anyone in support of Mr. Lee? Okay, noted that no one. Mr. Grisham? Absolutely, yeah. Okay,
But we'll
discussion?
discuss for. Okay. So, is it your preference to do item 2 first? That's fine. I can do it either way.
I mean, I don't think it matters that much. I mean, I think we just need to get to the meat of the matter, and then
Okay.
one will determine the other, but.
Okay, so as to item 2, I think the only thing that we left hanging there was an understanding of the policies and procedures. Those were presented to us at a prior meeting, I think November of 2014. What we didn't have were what was the information that we asked for and the handouts, and there were some referenced attachments. So those are finally before us. I looked at that. I think my favorite section here is something like, what will Frank W. Lee do for you? It was something like that. I thought it was pretty funny. Page 89 and page 94 of the packet.
Okay.
Without humor, the presentation that DPW put together, which it appears was presented to at least the division and bureau managers and perhaps other relevant employees, actually describes public records requests starting on page 82 of the packet pretty clearly, so employees can actually understand what their responsibilities are. There's some stuff about subpoenas that's sort of beyond us, but I think it actually takes some complicated stuff that we deal with and translate it pretty easily to actual employees. So I liked that. I thought the Q&As were good, the flow charts, all of that. So I actually appreciated the policies and procedures, and I would actually ask Mr. Lee and is that Mr. Spitz with you? If you guys could stay for item 4 when we're going to talk about policy and procedures citywide, and maybe we can use some of the information that you put together for that. So just from my perspective, having finally seen the material that I hadn't seen initially, I'm satisfied with item 2, and following discussion, I'd be prepared to find compliance with our order and close out item 2, and then we can talk about item 3. But subject to other members and public comment and rebuttal, all that.
So essentially what we're deciding in item 2 is that they have sufficient materials to document their process for procedures of public records requests?
On page 3 of the packet in the decision and order from back in September from our August meeting, I guess the task force found a violation for failure to assist in identifying the existence, form, and nature of records, and asked that someone from Public Works appear here and provide written procedures regarding how the department processes such requests, and ask for any additional information regarding training provided to staff regarding assisting the public in finding requested records. So it's really just whether or not they've finally complied with that order from last year.
Yeah, I see no reason that we can't just move forward on that. It seems comprehensive and sufficient.
And then what are your thoughts for, before we table that, what are your thoughts for 3, item 3?
I'm thinking, Victor, maybe we should take care of item 2 first, because item 3 will actually involve a recommendation back to the task force.
Okay, but since we're hearing them together, I think we should discuss it a little bit and then allow for rebuttals just to...
That's fine, and then make whatever motions. Okay, that's cool. With regard to item 3, I think I had a question for Mr. Grisham. You made not just a single request, but a number of requests over time to DPW, and there was some back and forth about claims, how they handled it. No, I wanted this. Where's the procedure on that? They ultimately provided a number of records kind of on a rolling basis, and then indicated that there was a process to review all of the claims for a certain period of time. Have you now gotten all of that information, including details on all of the claims, or is that still in process?
Well, I'm satisfied with the records I've received.
Okay.
Voluminous records have been received, starting on page 100 of this document. This is a spreadsheet that actually Rachel Gordon gave me when I met with her. There are over 500 claims-related
the 544 count.
Okay, thank
Right?
you.
Okay.
Yes, so that's a lot compared to Frank Lee's statement saying since we don't keep these things, we wouldn't have them. So how do I know if there are more that he's also denying? But my pursuit of records is over.
Okay.
So, that part I relinquish. I am satisfied. I've proven my point. Records exist at DPW voluminously, exactly claims related. And I would, perhaps you already remember, the outright denial of the existence of these records initially. And yes, there was back and forth. They went on for months. I think my initial...
And I'm not trying to minimize that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if you're satisfied that you've gotten the records, we need to make a recommendation on item 3 to the extent that we already found a violation of item 2, and these are sort of related matters. Could we recommend that there's no further violation here? Would that be okay with you? I mean,
it's okay with me.
Okay.
Because, again, I don't know if records exist that haven't been divulged, but I would have no way of knowing that. And I feel good faith has been shown now, especially by Rachel Gordon. But, it took involving the task force, it took all this back and forth and Sturm and Drang to even get, frankly, to admit that claims-related records exist. I wanted, but that's just your question.
Okay.
And
well,
I wanted to
and it's not specific to your request or to DPW, but sometimes it takes other parties or bringing something to the task force before departments act in a different way. And I'm not saying that it's good or bad. It happens.
True, but it's in the policies and procedures that were finally given up to me after I involved task force show records retention policy for claims. There's 5 different entries for claims.
So let me
Yet
follow.
he denied over and over again that there was even the claims existed within the department, and yet the policy and procedure clearly shows, whether it's outdated or not, the policy and procedure acknowledges that claims are handled, considered, the records accepted.
Or that at least
and
they have some
retained.
records. Okay, understood. So let me follow up with them on that, if I might. So, Mr. Lee, Mr. Spitz, whoever. I think we now understand that the city attorney does take claims for the city, but to the extent that they involve actions of a city department, that they request records from city departments and respond to claims in that way, and your record retention policy and schedule acknowledge that you may have some files or records related to claims. Even if you are in the process of updating that, you still may have some files and records related to claims, historically, currently, in the future, whatever. So
If it is, we wouldn't have a depository for them.
Okay.
The reason why we have a depository for the inspection records is that we created one. We created a database for all the complaints that come in and requests for inspections.
Okay.
For example, if you see on
Is that street inspections, construction inspections, or inspections of any type?
public right-of-way inspections, public right-of-way. So
Which
street
again
sidewalk.
could be, which again could be BSM, could be
BSM,
BCM, could be BOE, could be any number of bureaus?
It could be, because the complaint can come in, and if it's related to a construction management project that we're handling, yes, it will go in there and logged in there. And you do see some there, some of those complaints that actually refer to our internal projects.
Okay, so to the extent that this second page of your public records retention schedule refers to claims, you said that that's in the process of being updated,
yes.
And will those sections related to claims be removed?
Yes, they'll probably be
Okay,
removed.
so then in the future, whether it's Mr. Grisham or anybody else, Frank, if it's Mr. Grisham or anybody else who inquires with you about claims related to DPW, how would you intend to handle that
Well, we'll
going
probably
forward?
have to ask, well, we've done this with attorneys. A lot of time, the attorneys would ask about a claim on a,
No, I'm asking going forward.
Yes,
if,
exactly.
If Mr. Grisham or somebody else says, have you gotten any claims about tripping
Exactly.
hazards with trees or whatever the heck?
yeah, we're doing that right now. That's what I'm trying to explain.
Okay, sorry.
We do that right now. When we have a few attorneys that have asked us in the past month or so about claim related. And what we ask them for is, can you help us identify the location or the address? And then we search based on the address. Other than that, it would be difficult to find. For example, if you notice some of the claim that the city attorneys listed was sort of like traffic accident, pothole.
Where you may be a contributory, but not the,
Yeah, but
the main
we would
source.
not
Okay.
have anything, because
I
it
guess
may
what
be
I-
just a call to 311 and said, fill that pothole.
Okay. I guess what I'm looking for is an answer along the lines of, if someone like Mr. Grisham asks us again, we won't say we don't have anything related to claims, go somewhere else, but in fact you would assist Mr. Grisham or whoever in figuring out what information you have, what information the city attorney or other departments have related to whatever claim or whatever concern they have, and not just give them what they perceive as the brush off.
That's correct. We do
Okay.
explain to the requester that the city attorney generally accepts claims, and they could contact them as well.
Okay. And are you saying that your response now would be different and better as a result of Mr. Grisham's inquiry?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Grisham, does that help you?
He's still lying to you.
Well, that may be, but at least to the extent that he's saying that they're going to handle things differently in part because of your request, is that a good thing? Is that a win?
That's not what I heard. I mean, what I just heard is that he's still going to say, see the city attorney if somebody comes and asks this exact same question. Maybe I misunderstood. If I could just point out page 235, request for action. I mean, this is a DPW record. This is the policy and procedure that was in place. He's misleading you when he says we don't keep those records. We don't have a repository. We created one as a result of this fracas. It's not true. This is from 4/21/2014, request for action, claim related, high priority. Here's the DPW staff person, DPW claims, David DeVincenzi, 554-5846, dedicated staff person for claims, DPW claims. This is one example of records that existed. Right-hand man to Director Nuru had every reason to know about these. I believe he did. And he's still obfuscating on the fact that these records, probably to this very day, are still being created. And
Mr. Lee, can you clarify?
That is not correct. If you go through the, I think, 13, 14, 15,000 records, there may only be less than 100, less than 50 that's attributed to David DeVincenzi. And if you notice, we have over 500 and some odd claims attributed to DPW in that fiscal year. So we definitely know he is not a single person. The city attorney may contact him, and he may log it in as that, but the city attorney could contact anybody, and we don't know.
Then let's take a moment on that. Hold on, Mr. Spitz.
Okay.
I don't know who these people are. This David DiVincenzi, is he in BSM? Is he a DPW employee?
He is in, I think, is he in BSM?
Yeah, he's a street.
BSM.
Okay, and Robert Kwan, is he also somebody over there?
Yes, he's been in BSM.
And there was reference in here to a Stephen Noya. Is he also
Yes,
over
BSM.
there? Okay, so to the extent that any of those people create records or have records that say something like claim-related high priority, DPW claims, is that not a claim record that DPW would have somewhere?
That's why we gave all those inspection records, because those individuals don't just do claims-related inspections.
Understood, but to the extent that they have some records that say claims, that would be
Yes.
a claim record that DPW has, not the city attorney, but you guys, right?
But we also turned that over to the city attorney. So that's why we originally said anything that we have, we would give to the city attorney. But yes, you're right.
If I may say something real quick. Hi. Just first off.
Can you identify yourself for that?
Yeah, Jeremy Spitz, Public Works. First off, I just want to address an earlier point. The list of 544 claim documents that we had, we got that from the city attorneys and then gave that to Mr. Grisham, so I just wanted to add that to the record. So we did not have that list. They gave it to us. Secondly, Mr. Grisham's request was for claim files related to construction in the public right-of-way. So our issue wasn't that we had nothing related to any claims. It was that we had no way to find claim files related to the public right-of-way. First off, because an inspection report isn't necessarily a claim file. I'm not an attorney. I don't have the city attorney's claim files about it. So it was an inspection report, claim related, but we had no way of knowing which ones were or which ones were not related to construction in the right-of-way, so we gave them all of them. Most of them are simply trip and falls due to lifted sidewalk by tree roots. That's all I want to say.
So I guess my only point, and then happy to yield to Member Wolf, is that rather than saying we don't have anything, go to the city attorney, a better response is we may have things, we're not sure exactly what you're looking for, we need to work with you to figure out what you're looking for, because our language and your language, although both English, still have some differences and nuances. And we want to work with you to get you what you're looking for, not we want to pass you off to somebody else who can further point the finger.
That's correct. We do a full explanation of what we could have and how we store our documents so that we can help find them, and we also tell them the roles of the other departments.
Okay, and I'm not sure that Mr. Grisham felt that way or feels that way.
Read something to you. This is a quote from Frank Lee. Our department, the Department of Public Works, does not produce the information that you requested in your request items 1 and 2 because the department is not responsible for accepting, processing, and settling claims. Since we are not responsible for accepting such, we would not know of any claims against DPW unless someone tells us. That was August 29th. And this drags on through October, as it's dragging on now.
I
Is he still asking you to believe that he wouldn't have any way of knowing about claims related? They do accept, process, and retain these documents. I find it so offensive that Director Nuru's right-hand man is standing up here talking to a duly appointed governmental body, misleading you, and in my opinion, lying to you. It's right here in the evidence. I know it's buried because there's so many pages in this book. We have no statistics, electronic data, or other documents that would show accident rates. Well, these documents do show accident rates. And I'm not sure I do have all the requests for action.
And again, that's why I was trying to help them give better responses in the future so that they're not sending anybody else the kind of response initially that you got. I'm done for the moment. I'm happy to yield to Member Wolf.
I don't know whether I have any questions exactly. I'm kind of coming from where you are, Member Pilpel, and that it seems to me like when the request was made for documents, there was clearly not the effort made to see if those documents existed. There was a passing of the responsibility to the city attorney, and then through a process that began before August of last year, we've since had these documents manifest themselves, and even in response to questions about whether or not the procedures and how things are going to change are answered affirmatively, but only after Memo Pilpo kind of prompts what he wants to hear. And that leaves me feeling a little uncertain about what we should do. It seems that our complainant is looking to move forward with a claim around the malfeasance of members of the Department of Public Works. To that extent, I'm not sure that this complaint, this agenda item number 3, isn't the best way to continue that ball, as opposed to dealing with an issue that essentially, by our process, I think we resolve item 2 because they've met their burden of providing this stuff after almost a year, but that's done. That's marked off. The complainant's concerns about malfeasance should have an avenue to move forward. This panel is not the avenue to decide whether or not there was a willful violation. So I think that the best move forward is to get rid of item number 2, or mark it off, or whatever we call that, and refer item number 3 to the full task force to hear around a willful violation as the complainant is seeking.
So on that, I guess when I asked Mr. Grisham earlier if he was relatively satisfied at this point, and he said yes, that's what I understood, it sounded to me like we can, or we could, refer item 3 to the task force with a recommendation to find no additional violation, because we've already found a violation on item 2. If we could also refer the entire matter for a full hearing at the task force, or we can make a recommendation and the task force could not concur in our recommendation and still schedule a full hearing. I'm not feeling that an additional hearing on this is going to yield anything new. I would like to get slightly better answers from DPW. I was trying to get that. I feel a little better, but I don't feel 100% better on this. So I'm also at a loss for how to make this better than it seems like it's getting. And I think it's getting a little better, but I'm not sure that it's getting a lot better. And I don't know.
I'd also like to talk about the index. I didn't really like the answer I got sometime in a second. So that might be something that I'd like to get some more information from Mr. Leon.
I really feel like there's sort of a procedural question as to what the best way to move forward is, because in reading through the documents on item number 2, I feel like we made a determination that the Department of Public Works needed to appear and provide the written procedures, and I feel that they've done that. And I don't know whether it's sound to go back to this previous complaint and say, actually, we're looking for this other issue around Because basically the complainant has asserted that he wants to take this to the next level, if you will. And it seems like it's cleaner to do that from the new complaint. It still involves a failure to assist the complainant, which is the ongoing flavor of the problem. But I don't have the institutional experience to know which is actually better procedurally.
Let's do rebuttals, and then maybe we can be closer to a decision on that. Mr. Lee, you'd like to go first? And in your rebuttal, please also address a little bit more that index of records that you referred to in your opening statement as far as the time frame and who's doing it and how long it's going to take, et cetera.
Excuse me, would you repeat that?
Yeah, the index of records that you mentioned in your opening statement. I'd like to hear a little bit more about
We have
that.
a consultant on board, and the first thing we need to do is to take a survey of what records we actually do keep in our department, and revise that list, and then we'll go forward on how we can maintain them in a manner that's easily documented, so that is for easily retrievable.
Give us a background on the consultant. How did this person come about? Whose directive were they brought in at?
Who's governing the work?
No, the consultant. Give me the history
That's
on the
a good question,
consultant.
too.
Yeah.
Who's the consultant? I don't remember. Reggie Poole is the gentleman. I think it's Ctrl. Yeah. It's something like that. It's Ctrl. There are also electronic management system. So we're trying to have all the records done electronically so it's easily retrievable. So that's why we hired them. They're kind of a specialist on how to document everything electronically.
Is this an ongoing effort before this case, or is this something that's started
Actually,
recently?
it was as I mentioned, it was started because the city administrator asked all the departments to update their records retention policy, and it just happened to be mirror the same time frame as this complaint, so we took advantage of that.
Okay.
Can I follow? I'm sorry to interject in here. So who is this person reporting to in the city? Who's the project manager on this?
Reggie? No, he, yes, the contract is under our IT staff, so it's,
And it has at least two components. One is looking at electronic records management, and the other is helping you update the record retention
Yes.
policy?
essentially to create a good electronic management system, we need to know what records we have. So
Okay.
that's why the first step is to finish correcting the index of records.
Okay, so
Excuse me.
now this is getting frustrating, at least to me. Certainly, each department should have a good sense of its records, and departments should have a good sense of their electronic records and what they need to keep and all of that, and whether it's SharePoint or whatever the hell they're doing, that's fine. I have increasing concerns the more you're telling me about this, that at least the updating of the record retention policy and schedule is being overseen by a contractor and not by a city employee.
No.
It's really...
Let me correct. It's not being overseen by the consultant. I'm saying here we have
Who's the lead
consultant on board.
Who's the lead person on updating the record retention policy and schedule?
I am.
Okay, so
This consultant was hired, as I mentioned, to help us with the electronic management system of our records. We know our records are either hard copies right now or an electronic database. But first of all, we have to identify exactly what records we actually keep before we can even decide how to file things in the electronic system.
right.
We have to convert paper to electronic or something, but we need to figure out and identify what we have, because each record's going to have a new identifiable code.
Okay,
So
or
first
hierarchy, whatever. The way you described it earlier, you made it sound like we've put on a contractor to update the record retention policy and schedule, and that makes me nervous because I'd like to think that you or Jeremy or Rachel or somebody in your orbit are responsible for figuring out what records exist, what the retention policy is, and that they're being kept. And to the extent that IT is involved, it's to digitize or coordinate the electronic records, but I don't want to cede to a contractor to figure out what records a department has. That makes me nervous.
They're not.
Okay.
We are. Sorry. Sorry for the misunderstanding.
Anyway, I think Member Wolf had a question.
Member Wolf?
Back to
But throughout all of that, you did essentially say that it's going to take close to a year to identify what records you possess and make a list of them.
That might, because our department has over 1,300 employees. We have over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different bureaus, all doing their own thing. And then we also, as you mentioned, we don't do claims anymore. We don't do personnel records anymore, which are listed on the records retention policy, and we need to probably interview the people that answers those survey and try to pinpoint exactly what information they keep and what they don't keep.
No, I understand all of the nitty-gritty about updating your records retention policy and moving forward to have things properly categorized. And maybe I'm just misunderstanding, but shouldn't you at all times know what documents are within the possession of your department? And shouldn't you be able to produce a pseudo up-to-date list at any point by essentially doing list file star.star or whatever the code is? That
Yes, but unfortunately, I probably have the best idea of what we have and what we don't have, but since I don't physically keep those records, we want the employees that do to tell us. You see what I'm saying? I don't want to be the... It's a management style, I suppose. I mean, we don't want to tell the employees, hey, you keep these records or you don't keep these records, because we want them to answer us and be supportive of what they do.
No, I understand all of that. I'm just sort of...
So that takes a little time.
I'm just sort of aghast that rather than having a continually updated process of indexing your records, you're updating it every 10 years, and it appears are 10 years out of date as to what the records look like.
Member Wolf?
Member Popo?
We've now interrupted Frank a couple of... Why don't we let them both finish their rebuttal and then figure out what we're going to do, because I'm now reassessing what I think from earlier. Fair enough?
Indeed.
Okay.
So, Mr. Lee, anything else you'd like to add? In summary?
Is there anything I should add? Oh, it's not 1 year from today. It's 1 year from since what? January or December, something like that. So we're already halfway through it.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Grisham, go ahead.
Okay. Why is this gentleman laughing? This is not a joke. Why are they laughing and smiling? He's the head of the revamp of the procedure, doesn't know the name of the contractor that he's hired for it, can't remember the name of the contractor that he's hired for it. This does not pass the smell test. If I misspoke earlier and implied that I'm satisfied, please let me restate, I am not satisfied. I am done trying to pursue records because I have zero faith in this person, his attorney, or his boss, Director Nuru. They have destroyed my trust in that department and very nearly destroyed my trust in San Francisco city government. You are doing the only thing that has happened to redeem that trust. This is the only place where I've gotten any relief, where I feel that there's some sanity in this building. This is not a joke. I'm extremely distressed about it. I am far from sad. The more I listen to him, the more I watch him shuck and jive, the more concerned and upset I am about it. This is not a joke. This is public. I've done many FOIA requests to the federal government. There are millions of employees of the federal government, and yet they have a way of tracking and retaining and producing in a reasonable amount of time voluminous records for any member of the public who wants to request them under the Freedom of Information Act. I believe that the Sunshine Ordinance Act for San Francisco, like the Brown Act for the state of California, is designed to provide that kind of transparency at the state and local level that Freedom of Information provides at the federal level. This is not a joke. Again, I could, the quotes, frankly, has repeatedly denied straight up to you and to me the existence of things such as a description of the nature form of the record, the index of records that I said in my, which was very clearly stated. And I didn't just use the magic words until they were given to me. Thanks to Victor Young, I could easily, and I'm the most persistent person I know by far. Most people would have been turned off and turned away and discouraged and defeated and given up by now, long before now. I'm tired of coming down here and having my heart race and feeling shaken up by this. It's willful failure. He is lying to you, and he's lying to the public. And I find it extremely objectionable. It's the most hideous thing I've ever seen up close and personal in government. I hope you will find for willful failure or help me find my way forward to have official misconduct found against Frank Lee. I think it's evident. And I mean, does this pass the smell test to any of you? It stinks.
Thank you. Members? Member Pilpel?
Well, I sit on the city's wastewater committee, so I understand smell, anyway, which used to be under DPW, actually. I guess I said earlier that I was, at that time, ready to put item 2 to bed and consider how to refer item 3 to the task force, possibly not finding a violation. I'm now reconsidering that. On the papers, I was okay with some of the presentations that I've heard. I'm a little less satisfied, and I'm struggling for what to do. Maybe we could have some more discussion, and I'm still thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I understand where you're coming from. At the same time, the questions that have given pause by yourself and members of the committee are somewhat outside of the purview of what was requested under item 2. Like, where I feel our hands are tied is that we asked for something. To the extent that we asked for, to the edge of what we asked for, they gave the right answers. Beyond that, there are things that have left members of this committee concerned, but that all seems to fall outside of resolving item 2 the way that we chose to write it up back a year ago.
Just a quick question. One thing that's not resolved is the index of records, which we keep coming back to. We could pull that into the order of determination. We could have them appear before us again by the end of the calendar year, showing us that that's been completed. That's the very least we could do. I mean, it's only a small step towards it, but at least it keeps this, on deck. It keeps it alive, their feet to the fire, so to speak, to continue to improve this process, rather than this just disappearing and coming up, 2-3 years again from now. So I think we should keep something going just to ensure compliance. If not by the letter of the order of determination, certainly the spirit, which Mr. Grisham has made, put a lot of his time in to bring to our attention. So we could include that. If someone can help me with the...
Does the fact that we don't have index of records in that order of determination from last year?
No, we can always add. We can add to that.
I'm not sure that we could add to the prior order. We could recommend that be included in an order if we find a violation on item 3.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Exactly.
So now I'm leaning to finding compliance and putting to bed item 2 and recommending that we find a violation on item 3 and include a request that we be updated on their revision to their record retention policy and schedule, something along those lines.
Yeah, I mean,
And while we're at it, we could, we
anything else.
saw the, the workflow and the charts, and I don't know whether that is actually part of, their policy and paperwork now, or whether that was proposed policy, but we could ask for evidence that that has made it into a website, a manual, training.
We can ask about that now, actually. So, Victor, can you bring up on the screen what DPW has on their website? I mean, this is a good intro to the next item. If someone looked up on either sfdpw.org or sfgov.org/dpw, which I think redirects there, and they're looking for public records requests, there's something there.
I mean, I applaud your efforts to get the paperwork to us, but ultimately, it needs to become live and real. And
So
since we're going
let's,
to keep this
why don't we
open
take a
anyway.
quick look and find what's there? In the meantime, Frank or Jeremy, can you tell us the policies and procedures that you provided? And hold on, that was out of your policy manual, is that correct?
I guess the question is, and you can approach if you'd like, how real, how live are these policies and procedures and this training for your staff? Mr. Lee? Yeah, you can both come up. You can both approach if you like.
Those are updated every 3 years.
Okay, so
That's part of our accreditation process, so those are updated every 3 years. The
Okay, so this-
accreditation is good for 3 years.
okay, so this refers to procedures from a departmental procedures manual, yes?
And that's, the procedures manuals are a requirement for accreditation.
That's fine.
And a self-assessment, so we created that, and that's updated every 3 years to renew our accreditation.
That's
So-
fine. I'm not
so
trying
when was
to-
it last updated?
Pardon?
When was it last updated?
We were last accredited last year, so it was updated last year.
So my question, more specifically, is your records management personnel, what sheet of music do they work off?
What should they work off?
What sheet of music?
Don't
There-
Don't go metaphorical
don't,
here.
no.
What manual?
There are, I mean, Frank is the only one who does public records requests. I help him with some administrative stuff on the side, but he's the only one who's.
Well, I'll follow up on that, but let me just ask, these procedures, 02.01, 0.03, and 0.05, that appear to be out of a departmental procedures manual, is that departmental procedures manual on the website?
It's on our internal website, yes.
Okay, so if someone wanted a copy of that or wanted to review it, you've got a copy in the office, someone can ask, but none of that's on the website?
We do give it to people.
Okay, but again, these two particular procedures about how you respond to public records requests, page 73 of our packet, which, we'll talk about a little bit more in item 4, not on the website? No?
The procedures aren't on the website.
Okay, so if someone went to the website, here, can you help Victor? You're looking for a public record, where do you go? Contact us? Yeah, that's good. Public records request. Okay. Down there, let's click on that. Da-da-da. There's a form. For more information, contact Frank. That's some stuff, not a lot. Is it possible to put your procedure on there?
Sure.
Those FAQs you had were pretty good.
Right.
That'll be nice to have
I
there.
mean, the procedure and the FAQs.
Yeah.
Here's our procedure. Here's some FAQs. What can Frank W. Lee do for you?
No problem. We'd be happy to update that.
Okay. See, now we're getting somewhere.
Okay.
And thank you, Victor. And the record retention policy and schedule, even if it's last year's and being revised, is there a problem putting that up somewhere?
That, I believe, is on the SF.gov.
True.
It's on there, but if you'd like us to put it on here too, we would.
Okay. And when it gets updated, that'll get updated. Okay. So now we're talking about putting some
three
stuff
items.
available to the public that we've got in our packet that's helpful, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's always okay to over-help people.
We usually don't get accused of over-helping people, but that would be a great place to be.
Right. Okay, so those are 3 items plus the index of records that we can build into item 3.
Yeah. So I guess I'm still feeling that item 2, they've complied with. We're now sort of asking for some things, and it sounds like they are willing to do those things, whatever those are. And in order to keep this alive, we would need to make a recommendation to the full task force on item 3 that there was some sort of violation, perhaps, of 67.21.
So that's where I feel that we haven't heard that case in a hearing fashion. By merging it with the other one, I think we should refer it to the full committee with a recommendation for them to hear the case without us making a recommendation one way or the other.
Okay?
We can refer it with a recommendation and a summary just to bring them up to speed.
I know we could refer them with a recommendation. I'm saying that I don't think we should, based on the fact that we haven't heard.
Fair enough. So, Victor, under our options with this new procedure, how do we send something to the task force and say the task force should hold a full de novo hearing, that we didn't see enough one way or the other, and they should hold a de novo hearing?
Before you answer that, I'm a little bit worried because I don't think Mr. Grisham is going to be here to state his case, and I think...
Well, let's ask him. Are you willing to come back to a full task force if we refer it in that way?
And I'll be more organized next time in case, I'm sorry I wasn't more organized. I think that it's in the
Please
record.
come up to the
It's
microphone.
fine. We got it.
We got it.
We heard you.
Good. Okay.
The only concern I have is a lot of the information requested is similar in both files. We need to state we're going more procedural than actual documents at this time.
Yeah, let me come back to Member Wolf. Why do you feel we shouldn't have a recommendation? I want to hear your thoughts on that a little bit more.
I feel that we shouldn't have a recommendation because, well, first I have a clarifying question. Is this item 3 essentially the complaint committee, or is this some other avenue that this complaint is being heard today?
Question.
The rationale behind this one was that the documents requested were very similar in both complaints. So we are hearing it as a complaint committee, item number 3.
So hold
It's
on.
the first time it is being heard.
Did the full task force heard item 2, right?
Yes.
Did they not hear item 3 at the same time?
They did not. That came in afterwards. However, the requests are very
Subsequent
similar.
requests for information. Okay.
So the reason that I feel that we shouldn't, I wasn't thinking when the suggestion to combine the two was put forward, otherwise I would have opposed that. What we heard today was not a hearing on item 3. It was an amalgamation of stuff about item 2 and stuff about item 3. The timelines of how long people were given to speak were not adhered to the way they should be in a full hearing. And the way that the complaint hearing process, the complaint committee process is supposed to work is that we are supposed to make a recommendation and then the full task force should approve it. What we really want is something vaguely like a de novo, but I don't think we actually did the first hearing tonight. So I think that we should basically defer item 3 from a decision here and refer it to the full committee essentially for a first hearing.
That's what I was,
And we should tape or close agenda item 2 as completed.
And that would actually give both sides time to prepare better arguments and a better defense, so that there's a real hearing. Because we did sort of squish and mush and.
We did have a hearing on item 3 at the complaints committee several months ago.
The compliance amendments complaints?
The complaints committee.
I
Wait,
think that was here.
Yes, it was here, but it was an actual hearing.
of the same complaint committee, the three of us?
We had a hearing at this committee, and it was continued to the next meeting. And so this is the second hearing of this item in terms of allowing time for the members to speak and finding jurisdiction.
Just let me weigh in on this. I appreciate Member Wolf's concern for protocol, I guess, here. But being mindful of the the time of the task force and the overall effort put into this, I feel comfortable. We've heard enough. I think we know where this is at. I certainly think we can refer it with a recommendation to cut down on the full task force time, and I think we should. I think reopening this whole thing, I don't think it's that complex that it requires that. Some cases in the past certainly have, but I think we should try and be a little more efficient in this one. Member Wolf?
I mean, where I'm coming from is that essentially the complainant has intimated that they plan to take this to ethics, whether that's the course of action they actually will pursue or whether there's a different course of action they would like to take. They've indicated that they want to see this to the completion as close to the resolution they're looking for as possible.
But they can't necessarily do that without us. So
that's not my point. And to that extent, I think it's really important that we follow procedurally every point that we can to the letter, because I don't want Mr. Grissom to take this to the next level and have our efforts to save the full task force time or something else among his process of seeing this through.
So, Chair Hyland, what's your sense about the substance of a recommendation?
Well, let's look at this backwards. I mean, can we rule on item 2 in this way? Because it's something that has been before the full task force. I mean, we are adding on bits to it, and maybe that in itself, merits it going back to a full review. I don't know, but I'm just trying to think, in terms of parliamentary procedures and maneuvers, can we get this through to the highest, quickest resolution with the least amount of effort? That's what I'm looking for. What is that path? I don't believe we've reached it yet.
Well, I think as to item 2, we can say, and where I'm now leaning, although I've now been all over the place here, that we've asked Public Works to post their 2 procedures and post their FAQs, or Q&A, whatever. Those 3 documents to the website with the documents that they've provided us and with the understanding that they will follow through on those additional requests, that we're satisfied that they have complied with the order in item 2. That's where I'm going with item 2.
So that, in other words, item 2 is still open pending.
Well, it is
actions.
open today, but that we would say that we could say today that with them confirming that they have done that we would close item 2. I'm less firm at this point about what to do with item 3, because we could go anywhere from recommending no violation to recommending a violation to making no recommendation and saying the task force should hold a full hearing.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are sort of our options.
Mr. Clerk, do you have any input? I mean, can we merge the 2, or we'd have to? I mean, we're hearing them together, but is there anything else that we can do to?
With the agreement of the complainant, we can combine the files.
Okay, so then it becomes.
The problem is that they're in 2 different procedural places, so I don't know that helps us. I think
Okay.
we should dispose of 2 one way or the other and dispose of 3 one way or the other. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah.
And can we add those 3 pieces plus the index records piece to either file?
We can. I think we're in a better place to do that on item 2, to say that we've made a request for da-da-da-da. We can open a separate file to ask them to come back on their record retention policy in the next few months and what they're doing to update that.
So I'm going to do a full flip-flop on this thing, and now I think that we better to make a recommendation, like not pursue item 3 and refer item 2 back to the full task force around these larger issues. Like, I have a significant concern about us not having a full hearing on item 3 and moving forward with it.
That way, at least it's a more watertight item that can be taken further by Mr. Grisham if you should choose to do that.
But let's be clear, that item 2 is fully within our jurisdiction at this committee to dispose of. We can say
Yes.
we find compliance with item 2 today and end it. Item 3, we're not ending one way or the other here. Either way, we make a recommendation to the full task force, or we continue it here, but item 3 doesn't just go away.
May I make the suggestion
Clerk?
that we combine the files together and then we refer the entire matter back to the task force with whatever recommendations you have? That way we will have had a hearing on the entire matter previously at the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force. And since the complaints are very similar, I don't believe that that is an issue. We do need the agreement of the complainant to combine the files, and then you can take action on the matter as one single item.
Okay.
Now we would do that at the full task force?
Yes, and you can refer back up with recommendation to find any additional violations that you may wish to make.
And just thinking through, let's say the task force wants to see these additional items, the FAQs, the procedures on the website, the index of records, finds another violation. I'm just trying to think through what the steps would be.
Well,
I suppose we could do that.
I'm more than comfortable with Member Pilpel suggesting things that should be on their website and them jumping on board and saying we'll make that happen. I'm much less comfortable with us making orders of determination around what should be on their websites without really thinking of this on a more holistic level, because we're asserting that these things should be the top hierarchy without really sitting down and looking at the priorities of everything, and that just makes me nervous to do in a codified way.
Yeah, I mean, the idea to put those things on the website just seems like a good idea for the moment. I'm not sure long-term that they should all be there, or that each department should do it, or that it should be in the same place. I don't want to reach all that global stuff right this second. I just think in terms of this department and with these facts and this complainant and respondent, that they already have these documents available, and so just putting it up to the extent that it might actually help somebody isn't a bad thing.
I agree completely. I'm just not sure it should be part of our order of determination.
No, it's not. I think now what we're headed to is recommending combining the files, sending the entire matter to the full task force for a further hearing, and recommending that at least those 3 things be put up, and giving Public Works an opportunity to tell us between now and the hearing that they've done that or not done that, and where we can find it, and giving both sides an opportunity to hone their arguments and have a full hearing at the task force, with the task force having the opportunity to close item 2 if it so chooses, or do whatever else on item 2. And same thing with item 3, is either find a violation or not and forward it, or do whatever, that the task force would have all the opportunities to do anything it wants with both of those items. Is that generally possible?
We can discuss this further once you have a better idea.
But I mean, does that give us the full range of options?
Yeah, I mean, I think we should make a motion to ask the complainant if he's open, or we should merge. I'm in favor of merging them, however we're supposed to do that procedurally.
I actually remember several hearings ago asking Mr. Grisham if we'd be okay with that, and I think he said yes, but just for the record, we could probably ask him again. Please approach, yeah. So, Mr. Clerk, please read the intent to Mr. Grisham and have him.
The intent is to combine item number 2 and item number 3, file numbers 14067 and 14098, into one file.
That's my preference that you do that. To me, they're very much a muchness. I would like you to take I'd like the full task force to take a holistic view of all of these matters as they've come about, and in terms of compliance with the order of determination, the fox is still guarding the hen house. He doesn't know the name of the consultant that he's hired at great expense to the taxpayer.
We'll take that as a yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
So we can do that.
Okay, so
let's take a formal motion just to be safe in that regards. The motion is to combine item number 2 and 3 into one file, 14067. The complainant has agreed to that motion. On that motion, Member Pilpel.
Wait,
With
Member
recommendations.
Wolf is making,
We're just combining it at this time.
Who made the motion on paper? Me?
I think you're making it, I'm seconding it, so we have that.
Just say that for the record, yeah.
On that motion, Member Pilpil, is there any comment regarding that?
Public
There's no
comment.
members of the public in the room to comment on that matter.
So let's clarify, we're just going to take one motion here, so it's to combine the files and refer the combined file to the full task force.
With recommendation.
Wait.
May we just combine the file and then
First, okay, all right.
then we
All
can
right,
work on
first,
a
just to combine the
recommendation.
files. All right.
On the motion combined, Member Pilpil?
Aye.
Pilpil, aye. Member Wolf?
Aye.
Wolf, aye. Chair Hyland?
Aye.
Hyland, aye. The motion passes to combine the file. I believe, I'd like to propose trying to do this. The motion would be for the matter to be referred back to the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force. And what recommendation do you have to the task force? What would you like them to do? I don't believe the documentation is an issue anymore. It's a matter of process. I believe that you want to,
Mr. Member Pilpel, maybe you can summarize.
Again, I could go either way. I think to give the task force the opportunity to hear the whole thing, I think we should say without recommendation, and that the task force would hold essentially a new hearing and see what we want to do. I mean, we can certainly provide color commentary from this discussion, but I don't think we should make a recommendation to the task force at this time. I mean, we could, but
Yeah,
I think that's going to color the debate. And
I think either no recommendation or a recommendation for a de novo hearing, and they come
Just
to the
that,
same
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, meanwhile, DPW can act on those suggestions on their website or not between now and then.
And we'd like to hear in writing that they have or haven't. That would be helpful. And we'd like to hear more from Mr. Grisham on what specific additional violation or whatever specific additional action you'd like the task force to take. We may or may not take it, but we'd like to hear from you what and why and da-da-da. And give,
How do I submit that?
to Victor. It's all good. And maybe we'll do that not for June, but for July.
And actually, I was going to ask Mr. Grisham, since you're no longer in San Francisco, what does your schedule look like as far as coming back in?
Well, I still own my house here, so I'm back and forth a
Okay.
little bit. I just stay.
It might be a couple of months from now.
The July task force meeting, does that work for you?
I think the June one,
I need to leave that to the discretion of the chair of
the
the
chair.
task force.
We have
But probably not June is the point.
elections, and
I might have a conflict if you could push it to August, if there is a meeting.
That might work.
we can probably do
Okay.
that. Member
Did we
Wolf?
put elections to July at the last?
We did.
So elections will be in July.
Not June. It's July elections.
Right, I know, but
I see.
I just wanted to give them enough time to
Yeah.
prepare and to.
No, I thought it was. I thought
Yeah,
it was
okay.
June, but it's July.
Push it to July.
Okay.
So does that do it? Is to refer to the full task force with no recommendation, but just to have a de novo hearing?
Yeah.
Can we make that as a motion?
Are there any areas that you wish them to focus on, or?
As I indicated, that Mr. Grisham that we would ask you in advance to explain what additional violations or actions you want us to take and why, that we're asking Public Works to explain that either these documents have been put up on the website or not, and when, and blah, 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 where people can find them, and to give you an opportunity to respond to Mr. Grisham's point, so there'd be sufficient time, and it's not just 2 days before the hearing. So if you can provide it sufficiently in advance, they can respond, we can see all that, and perhaps if we can limit the documents to anything new that the task force hasn't seen, because we've already seen a big mound of paper and we want to reduce that. So maybe if we can focus more on, less on the procedures and more on whether or not there's actually an additional violation. I don't know.
It seems at this point that the remaining claims focus on whether there was a willful violation and whether there was a failure to adequately assist the requester.
And so if you can focus on all that, that's good too.
There is already order determined stating that they did not adequately assist the requester.
That's already been.
Previously, so then we're
Right.
going to see if there's another violation of that, or if that needs to be taken further or not. Maybe it,
Right, but I
So-
mean, all the document issue seems to not be central anymore.
I think so. Okay, so I will so move that whole mess of a motion. Member Wolf?
Second.
Okay.
The motion is to refer the matter back to the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force for a de novo hearing. The complainant is requested to provide any additional arguments in a timely manner so that the department may respond to them prior to the meeting. There is a recommendation that certain updates be made to the Public Works website. In addition, I believe that the committee is going to, I recommend it's not the right word, but suggest that the matter, no matter the result of the hearing, that the matter be continued for approximately 6 months for update on the index of records upon their completion.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm not even sure that we need to put that in because I'm assuming that Public Works is going to tell us at the full task force more about that update process, and we may
I will
say
mention
when you
it
come
in
back.
the,
Yeah,
Yeah.
just
in
so
the
it's there-
referral
in there
letter to,
somewhere.
back to the task force.
Okay.
And I
you'll
will be
clean all
drafting a
this up.
referral letter and for your review prior to sending it to the task force. And the matter will be scheduled for the August meeting. I will suggest to the chair that we schedule this for the August meeting of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force.
Okay.
August or later.
And public comment?
Any public comment on that motion?
Is it clear to both sides what we're doing? Is that
This will be provided in writing to both parties via
you'll dress it up? Yeah.
a referral letter.
Okay.
On that motion, there being no public comment? Member Pilpil?
Aye.
Pilpil, aye. Member Wolf?
I'm.
Wolf, aye. Chair Hyland?
Aye.
Highland, aye. The matter is referred back to the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force for a de novo hearing without recommendation.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Grisham.
Go on to the next one.
Next on the agenda, item number 4, file number 15020, hearing, Policies and Procedures Guide, how to respond to requests for public records.
Victor, can I stop you there for a second? I notice there's a member of public in the room. Are you here for public comment by any chance?
She's my mom.
Hi, Mom.
Mom, hello.
All right. Okay, then we'll, not just Mom, as in Happy Mother's Day yesterday.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so carry on with number 4 then.
I have read the hearing item into the record. It is at your discretion how to proceed.
Okay.
Okay. This just in. Never mind. Okay, so since I asked Public Works to stay, could we have a little discussion with them?
Sure.
Thank you. Frank?
So just to give you some
Ordinary.
background, what we're trying to come up with is kind of a template for all departments, ultimately to go on the website, for people to go and have something that's the same across departments ultimately. And we're trying to, talk to different departments and see what's already out there and kind of do a best of breed amalgamation of what's out there. So I think Member Pilpel is going to ask you a little bit about what you have and Member Pilpel, take it from there.
Thanks. So if you have a chance to look in our binder on item 4, there are several public records policies of various departments that I guess Victor gathered, and thank you for that. Some FAQs from the city attorney and some FAQs from the city attorney, the fire department's policies and procedures. For some reason, the Ethics Commission's record retention and destruction policy, emergency management's policy and procedures on release of public records. That's what's in here now. Other departments have little bits and pieces. You have yours. What I'm wondering, and actually Frank might be the better answer on this, it looks like your policies and procedures were, I can't imagine that you dreamt that up on your own. So was there a template that came out from the city attorney, or did you actually dream that up on your own? Because it's pretty detailed.
I think I made it up on my own because I've been doing
Okay.
this for 7 years now.
Okay. And elements of it were from the Good Government Guide, or were there other city department policies that you pulled from?
Some of it was probably lifted from the city attorney's Good Government Guide, yes.
Okay. So understanding that various departments will have particulars that are unique to their department. We've had the fire department in here and had a long discussion about arson reports, and occasionally we hear from MTA about operator incidents, and police department has different things about access to police reports. Other than the particulars that are unique to a department, it seems that there are a lot of commonalities. If I ask for, your pay records from last week, they're your pay records, there's some way to get them, blah, blah, blah. That should be pretty common throughout, right?
Well, that's not a common request, so...
It may not be a common
I
request,
don't
but I'm
know
saying
what-
it would be a common record type across city departments.
I wouldn't know because I don't know what the other departments will release for their employees.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
If I was looking for a report, DPW did a report 15 years ago about blah, 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 whatever, you might not still have it on the website, but presumably it's on a shelf somewhere. I ask you for it, you go find it, you
That's
send it to me,
correct.
blah, blah, blah.
That's correct. It's sort of like what we said about responding to claims. We actually go back and ask the requester for more details if they voluntarily share
Right.
with us what they're looking for.
So if somebody says, I know DPW did a report on X date about this topic, if that's enough information, it may be something on street trees from 15 years ago, you would call Carla Short and say, they're looking for this
Not the-
report on that
not-
date, can you find it? She sends it to you, you send it to the person, we're done, right?
Yes, I mean, for example, this happens sometime. We get a requester asking about a lien that was placed on their property 30 years ago, and they're trying to get that lien resolved. So our response is, can you show me what you have, so that we can pinpoint exactly what it is? And when we discover that it's a lien against a abatement appeal, then we know it's not ours anymore because
It's
we
DBI.
transferred everything to the Department of Building Inspection.
And you know a little bit about building inspection, don't you? Okay. I guess what I'm getting at is where there are common record types and similar procedures, we would want to have a guide to departments that encourages a more consistent approach to things rather than encouraging members of the public to go here for that and go there for that and da-da-da, right? You should be able to ask a person in a department for a record that you believe that department holds, and the way departments handle requests should be more similar across the city than different.
Well, it seems like outside of whatever we're doing on this item, the work across the city that we heard about at last week's meeting regarding the standardization of the index of records seems to clearly be the first step along that process. It seems that we're only creating a skeletal index of records, and we're not actually indexing all the records of each department, but we are, from what I heard in that meeting, we are coming up with a common database set so that they can be searched across departments, which presumably means that they're using common categories, because otherwise you can't really make a common database set.
Due respect, but there are some assumptions in there, and let me unpack that a little bit.
Yeah.
The word I'm using this week is unpack. I don't know why. I just picked unpack as a word. Departments are responsible for their own record retention policy and schedule. That's subject to approval by the department head, the board of commission, the controller, various people. Those record retention policies and schedules then get consolidated into the index of records, which is a citywide thing that they're updating through that electronic tool. That's what we talked about Wednesday. So that's really departments and the city administrator with a little DT at the end, okay? This question of public record, of procedures for handling public records requests is not, it's not city administrator, and it is departments, but kind of this having a policy and procedure for how records requests are handled, we can actually advise departments and say, here's a model guide to handling public records requests. We encourage you to adopt it to your own needs, but adopt something remarkably similar to what we've suggested, because we think this will provide for more consistency across the city, for just not for the actual records, which is, or the categories of records which are in that schedule, but with the procedure for handling records requests. So if someone sends you an email for a records request, you should probably email them back saying, we got your records request and we're going to work on it. And you should probably email them back with the same email address that they used, rather than, we got a request by email and we're going to mail them an acknowledgement because we don't like the person and we want to delay our response so they won't get it for 2-3 days and we can futz with them, right? Mm-hmm. So there are some things that happen with the departments that we can encourage better practice. Does that make sense?
I mean, that makes complete sense. It did seem like you were asking a question about different document types that different departments would possess, which is where
And I'm sorry if that was confusing. What I was getting at is that a report that one department has versus a report that another department has, the way you get at that, the way you ask for it, and the way a department goes and finds it should be relatively similar. It shouldn't be that an easy-to-find report only takes 2 days to get from MTA but takes 3 weeks to get from the police department. That seems wrong. If it's a complicated report, I get it may take more time to look in storage, but it was something that they just did a few weeks ago. Both departments should be able to find it relatively quickly, and they should say, "Okay, we get what you're looking for. We're going to grab it and send it to you. How do you want it? How soon? How can we get it to you?" It's kind of like more of the "how can we help you" approach rather than "how can we obfuscate and delay." And none of this is specific to DPW. I'm just saying across the city, people have different experiences with departments. Some people, like Frank, actually, have been around a long time and can find things. And if you say, I'm interested in a street inspection report, he'll know, hey, BSM, let's get it right away. Somebody who's new in the city and may be a new public records coordinator may take more time or may not even understand what you're asking for. So more consistency and more training, which this committee is all about, is helpful. And again, having a more consistent set of procedures for how these things are handled is all to the good, and that's what we've been talking about for a long time. Does it? Yeah? Okay. I've talked a lot. Why don't you say something, Emil?
It all sounds good. In essence, we're talking about supplementing the existing resources, such as the Good Government Guide, with a resource of our own around how best to handle public records requests. I think that if we do it correctly, we don't have to worry about too many departmental idiosyncrasies, because we can write at a higher level than these idiosyncrasies come into play. What is our next steps to move forward on this?
I think first of all we need to get into the record what the clerk has handed us here tonight, just so that can be put out there for the public to see, and the issues to address. I'd like to see something, I see this as the beginning of a discussion, and it should be open to members of the public who want to come in and weigh in on this. So I think we should certainly continue this item. Within that continuation, I'd like to see some more structure as to, the EOTC is thinking of, is formulating a template. This template would have the following sections, A, B, C, D, all the way down. And we'll be, conducting further discussion on this at the next meeting. A couple of things I'd like to get into that, and this is something we talked about when we've kind of circled around the subject in the past, is I think a lot of this, working as a headhunter myself in my profession, a lot of what I do circulates around search strings and writing good code, if you like, or good search strings. So I think, there is a section where the, custodian of records should be assisting the searcher for what they're looking for. So I think, suggesting a search string, I think in the template it should have, a search string might look like this. What do you think would cover everything you're looking for? And the complainant can write something. But I think it's incumbent on the custodian to maybe better tune that search and help them come back to them and say, okay, we got your request. It's pretty voluminous. May I suggest this search string? And I think this covers everything you're looking for. I'd like to see that kind of back and forth, ultimately. And I think that search string should ultimately make it into a log. I think that log should be on the website, so future requesters can see that. They don't need to know who made that request, but just the actual, the actual search string of searches in the last, 60 or 90 days included these.
Well, and I mean, practically speaking, all of those searches should be on the website. You should be able to actually just immediately click and get those documents because they're public documents, and then we should be building a library of all public documents
Bingo.
requested, and they should all create their own structure so that they're searchable on both ends, but we're not there yet.
Not there yet. So in other words, it's going to save custodians a lot of grief, a lot of time if, those searches are accessible. You've already fulfilled it. There's a link to all those documents.
Let me just insert a caution, just slightly. I've made records requests, others have made records requests, that you don't necessarily want others to know what you're asking for or what you've got.
It would be anonymous, but the search string should stay on the site, I think.
Well, I don't know.
Why not?
Hold on. I would go as far as saying, and I'm happy, I didn't see this before today, but I'm happy to, comment on these things, not today, but at the next meeting. I think the procedures should be online. We should ask departments to maintain a log of requests that they receive, but I'm pretty sure I don't want that log of requests or documents responded to put online for a variety of reasons, not just the one that I expressed, but there can be security or privacy or potential retaliation. There are a number of circumstances I can see that would argue against publishing that log, but encouraging departments to have it. For example, if departments can say, well, over the last 5 years, the number of requests that we've gotten, and I think we heard from Public Works that they got, whatever it was, 348 requests 1 year and then 362, and that's helpful information, and we might want to know that and might even want to know, for example, what the average time was. Was it 3 days to respond or 3 weeks or 2.7?
Let me interrupt you, but if they've already passed the litmus test of information request and it's been provided to whoever requested it, why not publish it?
Well,
I mean, this is a discussion for future, but
there's a bunch of reasons for that, but the biggest issue around creating a log is if you create a log, you've created a public record anyhow, and it's a matter of whether you are making people ask for it or you're making it presentable online. But I feel like we're getting down into the finer points here. The one thing that I do want to add in terms of larger issues is in terms of exceptions, this is where things get very complicated and very... that's where much of where our work lies is in adjudicating these exceptions, or that's probably not quite the right word, but mediating them or facilitating them. And I think that we should really pay careful attention to citing case law and building a really comprehensive exceptions section that maintains an up-to-date or is updated regularly as case law changes, because that, in looking at the I through X, the X part becomes the most vital when I look at this. So I just want to
maybe I'm reading it differently. I think that we should have a general discussion about privacy and that there are privacy concerns that may merit redaction of documents prior to release. What I saw as exceptions, I think that there are actually like fewer than 5 or 6. Law enforcement records like police reports and arson reports, we've talked about those in recent months. Medical records we talk about from time to time. Employee records, when an employee asks for da-da-da.
But the issue, Member Popo, is that there may be 5 or 6 of these broad categories.
Right.
But when you really look into, okay, so let's use a crime report, for example.
Okay.
So as best I remember, currently in the state of California within this jurisdiction, the actual data on the actual summary of the call is a public record.
Yep.
The actual police report is not a public record.
Correct. But the actual police report is available to the victim of the crime if they submit a request and with their
Yes,
address. So there's a procedure for how they can get it.
Let me just jump in right here. So this is the exact level of detail that I'd love to see once we get the final template out there. And I think it'd be useful for this standardized template to say, at the bottom, typically these type of reports are not always available. However, you can always ask for it. And in these cases, you can get this, but not that.
And here's the special process for that. That's
and
different.
The
from
law
general.
provides for this, but for not that currently. And then just like a line saying, but you can always request anything and take it down the chain if you want.
Right, and all I'm suggesting is that when we take the time to actually go through the drafting, that we ask some of our legal support, whether it's our members or the city attorney who works with us or outside legal friends, to have an up-to-date, as carefully written and as expository as possible around exceptions, because that is the area that has the most gray and uncertainty in changing.
Okay.
And I'm not suggesting that we either create more exceptions or resolve any exceptions. I just am suggesting that we acknowledge those exceptions that regularly come up. An employee says, I want to review my employee file. You have a right to that under the MOU or under the labor code that's different from a member of the public asking to see your personnel file. That's all.
Perhaps we can maybe...
I don't think we're in disagreement. I think we're
Yeah,
just
but- I think what would be useful is maybe divide and conquer this. I'm sensing some interest from Member Wolf on the exceptions, the redactions, maybe Section O, what is considered a public record. So if you want to perhaps take the lead on that and flesh out a little bit more.
I don't have they need to be researched by someone that has access to a law library to see what the latest, what the case law is on those things.
Well, no, we're not getting down to the case law level. We're just we're just pulling from our charter.
But I think that there's a danger in writing it that way.
It's okay. It's not a final form. It's just a draft. And then ultimately, this is something that might go before we would refer back to the full committee anyway for them to kind of weigh in. But we're just trying to build a framework and keep it pretty simple. Think of it from this perspective. And this is something I said, when I went before the Rules Committee last time around. I would love to see something that's very user-friendly. Let's say you're, Citizen Kane, if you like.
I understand where you're coming from. My concern is that basically I feel like we see the good government guide used like a blunt object when it's...
Hold on, just one quick timeout. I think members of the DPW, you've been here long enough. We've got what we needed from you. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
I could see you guys lingering there, so please feel free to leave. We'll see you in August. Thank you.
Keep maintaining the right-of-way.
Yes.
I feel like we've seen representatives from the city use the good government guide like a blunt object around issues that are of surgical precision. I do not want to create another document that ends up falling under that same rabbit hole.
Agreed.
Fair enough. Why don't I suggest this? I'm willing to take a first stab at this, and I have a sense of what I would say and how much and not the rest. Okay. I'm happy to do that sort of in my queue of things to do, which continues to get longer. Send that to Victor, have Victor distribute it to the two of you, have you not respond directly to me, but provide your own comments, and then maybe at our next meeting, we can talk about where our thinking is collectively on this document. Are we proceeding with it? Are we killing it? Are we doing something different? And if we're continuing with it, what are we thinking? Not to the point of case law, but to the point of what should be included. We could make this 100 pages of crap, and I'm not with that. I think that's too
not
long.
what I'm suggesting.
Right? No, I'm not saying that you are. I think if we come up with something that's 10 or 20 pages to departments, or maybe even shorter, that's like how we think public records requests generally should be handled, that would be helpful.
I think procedurally, what I'd like to do is, I really want to see this not as a mighty tome sitting on a desk at a custodian of records cubicle. I want to see this on a website ultimately. So try and think of like either FAQs or links.
Right.
Think of that perspective.
Got it.
Yes, it'll have to be in paper. I'd like us to get it to some sort of, good draft form and then bump it up to the full committee and have our lawyers chime in on the connections and the bits that they feel that are important, and maybe some overall feel of how and if this can be incorporated into the IT department and pushed out to all departments for adoption or recommendation or whatever. That's kind of where I see this going in steps.
So that all sounds good to me, except that I would like to see us invite one of our two lawyers on the full task force to engage on this committee before engaging with the full task force reviewing.
I think what we can do, we can certainly invite them to the committee and have the discussion, but we can also, I think, present to them a fairly cogent summary of what we're doing, the document as we have it go to Victor, and have Victor send it out to the two lawyers, get their input back, if they can't actually physically show up.
Oh, yeah.
But I that's a good idea, just to kind of get it.
Let's
You
also
want-
be clear.
May
this is
I mention one thing? In regards to item number 8, the pending calendar, we
Yeah, I was
have the
getting to
majority of it is policies and procedures review.
That's what I was gonna
Most
say.
of these departments or entities have requested that I provide them something so that they know what they need to do.
Right. So it's a chicken and the egg thing. I was actually going to suggest that. First of all, this is not going to take like one more meeting and that's the end of it. This is going to be sort of an ongoing discussion for a few months till we get somewhere with it. I was going to say, again, I'm willing to do a first pass. Victor can distribute that to both of you. I think if we hear some of these items under item 8 at our next meeting, and just like we had the benefit of DPW today, if we have 3 or 4 of these departments and we can say, can you also stay for this item, we might have a little dialogue with those departments. I think it's a combination of like what's helpful to the public, what's helpful in terms of case law and legal review, but also what problems do departments have by not having a consistent policy or procedure right now where they might benefit from the work that either we do or that another department has done. Because departments tend to do their own thing and not necessarily hear from other departments, and they just kind of make it up as they go.
I mean, the Good Government Guide is one thing, but if we actually formally, come up with a template, I think it's within our charter that's what should be pushed out to departments.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So that's what I would suggest. Does that work for everybody?
Yep. Sure. So, Victor, do we move to continue this?
Yes, please.
Okay. So moved. Can we take that without objection?
Is there a second?
Are you moving? I'll
Yes.
second.
Okay.
Okay.
There are no members of the public in the room at this time. On the motion to continue,
That's to the next meeting? Specifically? Okay.
That's
Yes.
fine. Yeah.
Member Pelpel.
Aye.
Pelpel, aye. Member Wolf.
Aye.
Wolf, aye. Chair Hyland.
Aye.
Hyland, aye. The matter is continued to the next meeting of the Education Outreach and Training Committee. Item number 5, public comment. Members of the public may address the Education Outreach and Training Committee on matters that are within the committee's jurisdiction but not on today's agenda. There are no members of the public
There
in
is
the...
one, but she's not going to do anything.
Why not? Now's your chance.
There is no public comment.
Member Wolf, tidy your room. No?
Item number 6, adoption minutes for the June 9th, 2011, January 12th, 2012, February 9th, 2012, May 10th, 2012, December 13th, 2012, April 29th, 2013, May 13th, 2013, June 25th, 2013, September 16th, 2013, November 26th, 2013, December 9th, 2013, and January 12th, 2015 Education Outreach and Training Committee minutes. This is the last set of
Outstanding minutes.
Outstanding minutes for all boards, commission, all of the committees, and the full task force.
And the good news is I did a little work on this. The bad news is I only completed one set, but I did the most recent set, so I would move approval of the January 12th minutes with edits.
So moved.
Is that a second? That's
Yeah,
seconded by
or
member
seconded,
Hyland, by Chair Hyland. The next motion to approve, there is no public comment on the matter.
Since we have a few minutes, can we perhaps look at a few of the other ones and move them along? Or
I mean,
I'd like to just take the time to try to get it right. I already saw a few things here that need
Okay.
a little time.
All right.
But I'm on it.
okay, fair enough.
I may suggest if Member Pillhill can provide all the amendments to the
Before,
other
yeah.
minutes, I can make those corrections and print out a clean copy for the next meeting.
That would be great.
So on the motion to approve the January 12th, 2015 minutes of the EOTC and to continue the remainder of the minutes to the next meeting of the EOTC, on that motion, Member Pilpil.
Aye.
Pilpil, aye. Member Wolf.
aye.
Wolf, aye. Chair Hyland.
All right.
Hyland, aye. The motion passes. Item number 7, announcements, comments, questions, and future agenda items.
Victor, just to back up, did I see that those minutes go back as far as 2011?
Yes, she did.
Which was passed before we sat as this task force.
Okay. Item 7.
Are there any announcements or comments today?
I was just going to say, in the future, if we can combine item 7 and 8, so one of the, I mean, I like item 7 as a structure, so maybe within item 7, if we can just list the pending calendar there. Does that work?
Call of the chair.
I mean, does that work?
I think that sounds reasonable.
So I don't have anything further on item 7. We can talk about it in item 8.
Is there any public comment on item number 7? There is no public comment. No action is needed on item number 7. Item number 8, pending calendar. Listed on the agenda is a list of pending items before the Education Outreach and Training Committee. If there are any items you wish calendared at the next meeting, if you can, please let me know, and I will place them on the next agenda.
So, members, I guess that on the second to last item, maybe we should number these in the future. The budget process, we sent a memo, and then I have not heard back from Supervisor Farrell's office. Maybe I should check with them. On the items at the beginning, to the extent that there are policies and procedures, if we can maybe hear, if not all, most of those.
I believe that the controller is ready to proceed. I did hear from Mr. Riedstrom,
Yeah.
and he is anticipating a meeting at our next. He is anticipating attending our next meeting.
So could we do that and maybe at least 2 of the others?
And
Maybe we can call in Mr. Hartz since he has the one with the controller's office. Maybe we can bring in file 14105, Hartz versus Supervisor Mark Farrell,
Okay.
just for efficiency purposes.
And the hearing regarding the use of Yammer essentially is part of the same issue as number 4 because we don't have any instances of concern around it. There are no claims, but there is a known fact that this is a service being used by the city, and we don't have any suggestions for how to advise departments on it at this point in time.
We should definitely
Well,
add that to the end of the list. The other
Like why?
Yeah, the other social media.
Why for Yammer?
The
Extra
list
exception.
provided to you was very informal. I created that
Yeah.
as a.
Why did you start at I?
I was trying to do Roman numerals.
And then it went to letters.
Yes.
I like it.
It was cute.
Well, it also ended with X for exceptions, and now we had Y for Yammer, so it was just thinking well far ahead.
And Z for something else. All right, so
I believe that I will include that list into whatever Member Pilpil provides to me to create a separate document listing all the items we want to add and make it a formal document that we can provide to the public.
And so at this point, that should no longer be a hearing and should just be incorporated into the other item.
It'll be incorporated into the document.
well,
that Member
hold on a
Pilpil
second.
will-
No, actually, no. The item 4 was about responding to public records requests. Your item about use of social media, I disagree in part where you said we have nothing to tell them.
It's not about social media. It's explicitly about Yammer.
Oh, okay. Well, then I guess when you brought this up a few months back, I agreed that the city doesn't have an overall policy for how they deal with social media, and I think they should, and I think we could recommend a policy or policies to deal with both Yammer and other social media, Facebook or how. And I'm no expert on that stuff. I would encourage you to write up your thoughts on how you think the city should approach it. Is it that we use things, that we don't, that we keep things, that we don't? I don't know. I don't know enough about that. I'd like to learn more about it.
Well, for better or worse, I think those are two different issues, because while we can devise social media strategies for public record retention on the whole based on the way these services work front-facing, because we also know what they look like back-facing, because we all have them on our own systems. I don't know. What's that?
You guys, I don't know.
Most people have Facebook and Twitter and Gmail and whatever other, but Yammer is something that not only is exclusive to to individual corporations, but it's actually built around the standards of each individual corporation. So in order to even see what would be feasible within the public utilities thing, or public records side of it, we would need to pull the documents about how they built the Yammer in the first place. And so there's a whole ball of wax associated with Yammer.
So I guess maybe, and I'm sorry if I'm not being as clear as I could be, maybe either at the full task force or at this committee at the next meeting, if you could give a little explanation about both how these things work for pinheads like me who don't know, and for how you understand the city uses these things, and what issues you would flag as being of concern in terms of public records or access to meetings, to the extent that they're raised by the city's use of this stuff. I'm sure there are things, and I don't know what they are, and I'd love to know.
Again, with the social media, that's sort of outside of Yammer, it's sort of self-evident or it's transparent. With Yammer...
Is it? Seriously,
comparatively speaking to Yammer, maybe it's not transparent in and of itself, but compared to the Yammer situation, where I don't know how departments are using it. I don't know enough to have anything other than I found out they're using this. We should figure that out. Now, I could start calling city departments and filing public records requests about how each department is using Yammer as if I was writing a story about it. I don't know whether it's worth that much energy or not, or what the best sort of case moving forward really is, but it seems to me that I really don't know what the best way moving forward is.
Then let me just ask, can I ask a stupid question? I try not to, but in this case. So if someone tweets out some twit thing that says, hey, MTA board meeting next week, something about bike lanes, check it out, right? Mm-hmm. And sends it to whatever, anybody out there in the Twitterverse or something. If someone sends back, hey, that sounds interesting, I'd love to see a copy of item 12, and they send that back to somebody at MTA, right? Should they consider that a public records request that they got via Twitter?
Okay, but that's, again, a different issue than Yammer.
Okay. Understand that there's Yammer and there's everything else. I'm asking about everything else, because I don't know anything about.
Yeah, I think we do need to update. We do need, part of a guide on public records requests should include social media, absolutely.
Okay, and I don't know if there's a way for them to keep these things, how that works with record retention. And does the city actually own or control any record that they send or receive via any of these things? I don't know that. And I think it raises interesting questions like the San Jose case about whether emails or text messages sent on your personal device or through your personal account are public records if they're related to public business and you're a public official. It's complicated.
And if you are a public official and you accidentally send a personal tweet on your public official Twitter account, can you delete it because you screwed up, or is it now a public record?
Ask Hillary Clinton. I don't know. Seriously, these things, that's my point. I know that you've got something about Yammer, but there are other things in terms of social media, not related to Yammer, that I don't think the city has policies on. And I think
I don't disagree with that. I don't even have anything on Yammer so much as just like I found out they were using it and hadn't thought of it until I saw it today on this.
Okay. Could I then just ask you to write up what your thoughts are on this whole topic? Because I feel like an idiot asking these questions.
Yeah, I feel, let's put it this way, I feel prepared to dive in myself on the social media side of it, and I feel that we need interjection from some sort of IT person about how the city's using Yammer before we can start moving forward on that side of it.
That's fine. So could you do something on that bit, and maybe we'll find somebody to come talk to us about this and get into more discussion?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So is that maybe for next time?
Sure.
So Yammer basically is just intranet within a company or within the city. That's basically what it is.
Or we can just yammer on about it. Never mind. Okay, so if we're
Is it just Yammer or Yammer and other social media?
whatever member will puts together
I'm
initially,
carrying around social media and then
and we'll get to Yammer at some point.
figure out what we're doing with
I'll
it.
create a hearing file regarding that upon receipt.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, you didn't do that yet. You just listed it, but not with the file.
Yes.
We'll open the file. Okay. So if we get through some of these policies and procedures things,
So let's just recap. Which ones are we thinking of?
I
for
have
next?
14096 and 14105, Hartz versus Controller and Hartz versus Supervisor Mark Farrell.
could we maybe do Katie Tang and get all of the border soups up to date?
At your discretion?
14047?
Yes, I will add that to the calendar. Of course, let's state that this is tentatively scheduled at this time, pending potential future referrals to the committee.
Okay, and those are the most outstanding, oldest ones as well, right? So
Pretty much.
you got them in terms of numbers there. Okay.
And then could you maybe pick one of the city attorney, planning, or police? Or maybe not planning because 15013 is really somewhat planning related. That's the follow-up to the BARF discussion that we had.
Maybe those three are enough, especially if we're going to have discussion about the template.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like
Remember, Wolf?
we've already reached a full meeting at that point.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yes, that's one department and two supervisors, so
Yeah.
I believe we don't want to bring too many in and not.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I think that's good there, and then we'll have our, template meeting.
And maybe if we could, not at the next meeting, but maybe at the meeting following, if we could do 14102 and 15013, because they're both really planning related.
Okay. And we're back to monthly meetings, aren't we, Victor?
No discussion regarding that has been made.
So we're still at bi-monthly?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe we can talk about that at the full task force, either June or July, maybe July after we elect officers, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, good idea.
And hopefully we'll have a more full task force by then.
And just regarding that, I do want to state that the reason we're on bi-monthly is restrictions on my time to attend meetings. And that was the compromise reached by Chair Washburn, that it would be bi-monthly, so.
Which is why we need to get into the budget and staffing issues, because it was both Victor, who is here, and Nick, who's not here, and having staff at all of our meetings to assist us in doing the things that we do.
Yeah.
Have we done enough for the day?
Motion to adjourn?
The meeting is adjourned at 6:04.
2 hours, not bad. 2 hours, not bad.